Okay, everyone, welcome to Vendasta's weekly webinar. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to understand and sell search ads. My name is Thiago Neres, and I am the Product Marketing Manager for Market Services here at Vendasta. With me is Mike Vossen, who is our Product Growth Expert for digital ads. He has 8 years of experience in the digital advertising industry, and will answer your questions at the end.
Thanks, Thiago. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. As Thiago had alluded to, we're going to talk a little bit today about selling search ads. We'll talk about kind of the secret sauce here at Vendasta that myself and the team will use to manage search campaigns. And we'll also tackle a few common objections and questions that might arise when you're going out pitching clients on search. I know this is a really hot topic for a lot of our partners. It's probably one of the largest components of our digital book of business. We sell quite a few search ads, and we do a pretty good job of them. So we'll be talking a little bit about the sales tactics that I'll use with our partners, and as well some of the structures of your campaigns, kind of give you a little bit more of a granular understanding on how we go about making sure your businesses are found when users are looking for them. So, as Thiago had mentioned as well, we'll be taking questions near the end of today's webinar. So feel free, as you got them, throw them in the question channel. I can assure you, if you have that question, there's probably a few others on the webinar today that have the exact same question. So no dumb questions. I've certainly fielded thousands of them over my course of working with digital ads, and almost every question is always quite valid. So feel free to put those in. Okay, so diving in, everyone, we're going to talk a little bit about just generally what are digital ads. I know a lot of you have been on our webinars in the past, probably already know, but for those who haven't, digital ads are one of the best ways that we can reach those ideal audiences online. What we love about digital ads is it allows you to communicate with those target audiences when they're actively looking for your service or researching leading up to the point of purchase. Moreover than that, digital ads allows you a really high level of targeting or sophistication in where we serve the ads to who, on what device, in what setting, at what time of day. All of these things are targetable and certainly trackable as well. So whenever I talk about digital ads as it relates to more legacy media, you're thinking things like print, radio, television, banners, things of that nature. Digital advertising is more of a scalpel rather than a hammer approach. So the difference is we're going in to find that perfect audience at that perfect point in time and make sure that those are the audiences that are seeing your or your client's messages. Lastly, digital ads are great to decide what kind of actions are valuable to that business owner, and then how much are we going to quantify each of those actions at. For us, it's that old idiom that if a tree falls in the forest and if no one's there to hear it fall, does it make a sound? Well, the beauty of digital ads is almost all of these actions, online and in some cases offline, are trackable and reportable, which means that, say for a car dealer, if they know the average MSRP on a vehicle sale last year in the States was about $33,000, they know their close rates on inbound calls, they know their close rates on test drives booked online, and they know their close rates on users submitting internal financing forms. Well, the beauty of digital ads is I can track each of those actions. We can quantify it by the average value of a sale, by the close rates, to generate what we call our ROI calculation, or return on ad spend. So this means you can, with a high degree of certainty, prove to that business owner this ad campaign is generating you real return by your own admission. And there are very few ad mediums out there that with this degree of certainty, you can offer those kind of insights. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. As well as this webinar progresses. Again, kind of keeping it high level here before we dive into the nitty gritty, but what are the benefits of digital ads to a client? Well, of course, increased brand awareness. I can make sure I can give you those ads at scale and scope, finding that perfect audience wherever they might reside. We like the fact that they drive more sales and attributable sales. So if you have an e-commerce business, that's easy. I can just track how many people are making purchases. But if you have a brick and mortar store, like a lot of our clients, I can track visitation data. We can look at how many users called your business, booked an appointment, downloaded a form, submitted their name, email, and name, number, and email. And I'm sure everyone on the line knows already, the possibilities there are in essence endless. We love that digital advertising is extremely specific, very granular in the way that we target those audiences. So again, that scalpel versus the hammer or shotgun approach, I can serve a digital ad 3 feet from anywhere on the planet at that ideal target audience for you, and I can do it sitting here at Vendasta HQ. We love the, I would say the measurability of digital ads, or attribution as we'll sometimes call it, is the ability to measure those actions that led a user to the point of purchase or leading up to that point of purchase. And then that way we can start to showcase what's the real value of these ad campaigns. If you've been on a call with me in the past, you'll know I'm not a big believer in pitching on things like clicks, impressions, click-through rates. While we have, great numbers across the board, ultimately those metrics are hollow to a business owner. While it's great to have a high number of clicks, what I really want to know is, did that click generate new business for me or generate an opportunity for new business? And those are the questions that we're going to try to address. Lastly, getting things like higher ROI, as we discussed, certainly something that I can showcase in our campaigns. What I always tell partners is that first month is usually going to be our worst month, and more often than not, we're able to generate that positive ROI in as short as 1 month. But I try to set the expectation to be about that 3-month mark, just for best practice. And then lastly, to adapt your strategy. So the beauty of digital ads as well is it's never a set and forget. When we set up a digital ad campaign, you're going to have any number of specialists looking at that account, looking at that campaign, and optimizing or making small adjustments to the audience, delivery, network, pacing, all these other little factors that will ultimately make your dollars stretch farther as that campaign progresses. And that's just on the human side of things. We haven't even begun talking about more machine learned optimization, which is of course something that we offer all our partners. So then, now that we know kind of how digital ads fits into this mold or into your business owner's marketing mix, let's talk a little bit about how does digital advertising fulfill a business owner's objective. So this is the way I want all of our partners to start thinking about selling search ads or any one of our advertising offerings, is let's look at what part of your marketing funnel are you trying to address. In this case, we have awareness, we have engagement, we have conversion. So awareness, I know who this business is. Mike's Shoe Store, I know that Mike's Shoe Store exists. Engagement, do I understand what makes Mike's Shoe Store better than any other shoe retailer in my local, area? And then lastly, that conversion piece. I want to buy from Mike's Shoe Store, take me there so I can make a purchase. What you'll notice is that when we look at the 4 main pillars of our digital advertising offering, that is display, YouTube, social ads such as Facebook and Instagram, finally search ads, the topic for today's discussion, what you'll notice is each of these mediums can address one of these core, funnel areas of your business or areas of concern. Display advertising YouTube, as you might have heard in our last webinar on becoming an ad expert, is better used to address awareness or in some cases engagement. With things like our Facebook, Instagram offerings, does a much better job of engaging that audience, showcasing the value proposition or the core competency of that business over and above, say, their competition. Lastly, for today's discussion, we'll be talking about search advertising and how it neatly addresses the problem of conversion online. So as you can see in the ads on the right of this screen, you can notice that search advertising is simply those ads that show up on what we call a SERP or a search engine results page when a user is searching for that product or service. Fairly straightforward, I know, but like to play it safe, make sure we're all on the same page. Before we get even a little deeper too, I want to touch on why the need for search. So of course, I'm sure most people on the webinar already know, but the vast majority of searches being done every day are done for users who are looking to make a purchase, or they're researching some topics or some services to lead them to that point of purchase. In this case, we're looking at about 3.5 billion searches done every single day. The vast majority of them are going to be done on their mobile phones, meaning they're out and around town ready to make a purchase or looking for a provider. We know that 79% of all searches happen on Google. Depending on where you get that stat, that's either a little higher or a little lower, but long and short of it, Google dominates this space. There's still some value in talking about Bing search ads. We can certainly address that nearer to the end of today's webinar, but ultimately Google's the big player here. They dominate when it comes to local search, so that's the medium you want to be on. And then lastly, what we've noticed is that 70% of online customers will buy from a business they find online. No huge surprise there. Seems as though that would be kind of a natural occurrence. But what's interesting as well is that a lot of customers that are going to go physically in store to make a purchase will usually do 3 to 8 searches prior to making that in-store visit and that purchase. So it is certainly important for your business owners to be found leading up to that point of purchase for those ideal targets, or those ideal audiences, I should say. I wanted to quickly touch as well today on the main differences between organic and paid placement of ads. So this is a question that I'll sometimes field every now and again. Well, how does my SEM, or search engine marketing, relate to my SEO, or search engine optimization? The analogy I always like to make to businesses is that it's renting versus owning your home. So if we look at the top of this search page on the right, you'll see this Domino's Pizza and this Panago Pizza are both located at the very top of the page with a little green icon in there that'll state that these are paid ad placements. This is you renting, say, an apartment or a home. You're going to have that placement as long as you're paying your rent, but the day that you stop paying rent, you basically are kicked out on the street. So you better have a second plan of action or somewhere to go. Whereas with organic results, or what we would call unpaid results, earned results as it were, this is where search engine optimization concerns itself. This is the small changes done on your website, done on backlink creation, all of these other little component pieces of your site to make it the most appropriate website that Google shows at the top of the unpaid results. And what we know about users making a purchase is that when they're in the research phase, majority of users will click on organic results. But when a user is ready to make a purchase, what we notice is that a higher number of those users will then start clicking on the paid ads because they know they're being marketed to, they know they're getting a deal or an offer from clicking on that ad. So they have a higher propensity to click on those search ads, which is great for us as advertisers because that means the people who are clicking on these ads are that ideal target audience ready to make a purchase, in market as it were. So today's discussion will only concern itself with the top portion, the paid ads or search engine marketing piece, though no, we have some best in breed solutions when it comes to the search engine optimization piece of your business. The analogy I made earlier of renting versus owning, with that SEO in play, you're owning that home. Every dollar you put into it, more often than not, depending on what service you choose, is going towards the online equity of your business, which means the day you stop paying is not necessarily the day you're kicked out on the street. You might retain great organic results by having a really well-built, robust site that also has a lot of SEO built in the back end. So you don't necessarily lose the value of that SEO after, say, you stop paying. I always like to start having clients thinking about, well, SEO for the long term, and I want SEM for the short term. I need results today, I'm going to pay for them. I need results this year and moving forward every year after, you're going to earn those results through SEO. So short term, long term. Let's start to think about, when is the timeline for these results that we're going to generate. And we'll touch on that a little bit more in a little later here in the webinar. So we dove a little bit in. This slide might not be the greatest here, getting right into the thick of it, but understanding search ads is all about understanding the taxonomy, or the general structure of a search campaign. You have 4 levels to a search campaign. The search campaign, the ad group, landing page, not really a level, but let's consider it one for today's discussion. So the campaign itself, the ad group that it belongs to, the landing page, and the keywords in those ad groups. Think of it like an onion. So if I'm a let's use that. If I'm a shoe salesman and I have a shoe store, my campaign might be spring shoe special. My ad groups might be men's shoes, women's shoes, and children's shoes. These are general categories to talk about some of the major products or services that I offer, but they're more like a container almost, as it were. Within each of these containers, you're going to have the associated landing pages, the ad copy, the extensions on those ads, all these little granular pieces. But the big component of that ad group is the keywords that we're bidding on. These keywords are going to be specific to the group that they reside within. So for my men's shoe keywords, I'm going to have keywords like men's boots, men's shoes, maybe men's Converse All-Stars, men's Jordans, whereas with the women's shoe section, I might have things like women's boots, heels, flats, etc. So you kind of get my idea there. The goal is to have a campaign, respective ad groups that match up with the client's service, or I would say services or products. And then lastly, the keywords, which are really going to be the bulk of that search buy, are going to be made up of these little keyword combinations. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into how we structure keywords, exact match, broad match, all these kind of technical terms a little later today as well. But I want us to start thinking generally in ad group and keywords being your big two there. What am I trying to showcase? What products, what services, what keywords are users searching to look for those products and services? And know that half the value, if not more, of Vendasta managing your ad campaigns is that we're going to do all that keyword research for you. I do need a little bit of guidance from our local partners on what should I be searching for, what should I be researching, but know that in each one of these ad groups, probably going to have somewhere north of 20 to 80 to 100 different keywords within. I just need a little bit of an idea on where we should direct those research efforts. And then lastly, each of these keywords is going to have its own associated ad, as you can see on the right. These ads changed based on the objective of the campaign, based on the strategy we're taking. I don't want to dive too deep into that. I feel like we'd be going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but certainly something we can talk about a little later. So you might remember I was discussing keywords just briefly back there. We talked about the types of keywords we would use. Well, just to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain, this is the typical structure of a campaign when it comes to keyword research and how we build those out. You have a combination of what we call broad match, or what industry would call broad match, down to exact match keywords. And these all are at different stages of a user's purchasing journey. So if I'm researching a category, in this example we're saying pizza, I'm going to bid on what we call broad match keywords, very, very general keywords that are usually going to be highly searched, but it shows me that those users who are searching for them aren't exactly sure who they're going to make that purchase with yet. They're still in the research phase. These broad match, I would say, keywords generally don't result in good conversion, but what they do is give you good brand awareness, and make no mistake, you will still get a few conversions from these. The downside to broad match is that you're going to be going up against some of the large providers out there. So in this case, maybe Papa John's Pizza is probably buying national broad match keywords for pizza, which means that there is going to be a little competition for that, and we know that it's not necessarily the best generator of conversion. However, all that said, we know the vast majority of people are going to start their search for my service or my product using broad match search terms. So our team will use those prescriptively based on how well our conversions are looking farther down the funnel. Know that all of this stuff we're discussing today is more for our internal teams. Don't feel like you need to take frantic notes. This is just to kind of give you an idea on how we look at these campaigns. Moving forward into tier 2, tier 3 related keywords. And as you can see here, I have more research phase, say best pizza dish in Denver, going into intention to convert, or users that are getting close to the point of conversion, pizzerias near me, pizza stores open. These kind of searches are more narrow match. So what we mean by that is that they're getting close to making a purchase. So now it's no longer just pizza. Now I'm looking for pizza locations open in Denver, or pizza delivery near me. So these are indicative of that user getting close to that point of purchase. So those are more narrow match, and we'll build those in as well. So we have a kind of a nice mix of more general, more narrow, and then finally getting to the tier 4, which is going to be what we call more branded, or could be considered also exact match, where I want only people searching for Domino's Pizza. There's an argument to be made, branded search campaigns, whether or not they really provide value. You could speak to it both ways. Some people might say, if they're searching for Domino's, they're going to find me no matter what. So why would I pay to have that user go to my site? Well, valid. On the flip side, though, if I'm Papa John's and I know people are going to be searching for Domino's, not as many as will be searching for pizza, I know the cost is really cheap. I know that those users are ready to make a purchase because they're searching for one of my competition. Papa John's might decide, I'm going to buy Domino's keywords. This wasn't allowed a few years back by Google, but they've since changed their tune to allow us to do branded competitor keyword placement. Only thing is I can't build Domino's into the ad copy itself. So I can't say Papa John's is much better than Domino's, but I can make sure that Papa John's Pizza shows up when people in Denver are searching for Domino's. So the nice thing there is you can kind of get that last second steal, as it were, of these clients that might potentially be going to your competition. For Domino's Pizza, they might want to bid on that keyword term just so that the Papa John's of the world don't get that #1 placement at the top of a page and steal those customers that were going their way. So as you can see, with search, and this will probably become prevalent as we continue this webinar, there really is no black or white. It's all a shade of gray. So there's, you can make an argument one way versus another, But the benefit of partnering with Vendasta and allowing us to manage your ad campaigns is all of this heavy lifting is done on our end. It's our search expertise, our search keyword team that's going to be looking at what is the best or optimal mix of search terms and keywords that are generating the best value for your business. Is it more broad? Is it more narrow? Is it more exact? Negative match? You know, we could go on for hours, I'm sure. I'd lose quite a few attendees if we got into that, but know that all of this is done on our end on your behalf. Oh, let's skip that one. We already touched on that. So when we talk about search, now that we know a little bit about how it fits into a marketing objective or how it fits to our clients' marketing needs, let's talk about how to best set these up so that we can accomplish those needs. So whenever we talk about anything, search, display, social, YouTube, what have you, we're always looking at, are these SMART goals, or are we setting this campaign up to be specific to one objective? So I want new customers. Okay, I want it to be measurable. How can I measure those new customers? Foot traffic, calls to the business, people booking appointments online, downloading forms, all these actions. I want to be able to measure those. Moreover, I want to quantify them too, but we'll get into more of that later. Is it achievable? This is a big question that comes up, something we're definitely going to be talking about when it comes to common objections, but is this an achievable campaign? I always like to say, I'm a huge believer in not setting an expectation or a result for a campaign. We can talk about our 80% retention of our digital campaigns. We can talk about, our search campaigns pushing close to about a 4% click-through rate. We can talk about all these other factors that lead or indicate rather success, but I can't promise success because there's a lot of factors outside of our control that none of us on the call have the authority to influence. So is it achievable? Is it $500 to generate $1 million? Is that achievable? So these are the types of questions that we should be asking ourselves and furthermore our businesses. Lastly, is it relevant? So does this, say, ad campaign, or does this, say, creative that we're running, or does this medium in some cases, will it tie to that business, or is it relevant to that business? So I'm trying to think of a good example for that one. But so would you want to serve, let's skip that one. I'm not exactly sure of how I'd make a good analogy on the fly on is it relevant. Oh, do I want to serve men's shoes to someone searching for children's shoes? Probably not, right? Not relevant to what the user's looking for specifically in search, right? And then lastly, time bound. I want to make sure we have a nice runway to set these campaigns up and be able to achieve and exceed expectations. Can I expect results in a week? Possible, but do I want to set that expectation? I'm a big believer in under-promising and over-delivering every time. So you'll always notice that if you're on a call with me, I'm always going to say, let's wait until at least the 1 month mark to even do any kind of analysis. And let's wait until the 3 month mark to generate that positive ROI. But between us, usually it's in that first month or two that we're getting into the positive territory. So when it comes to search ads, getting into kind of the nitty-gritty, we talk about what are some of the features and technologies in play or at our disposal that we can use to leverage all the expertise, all the tools, platforms, softwares that we're using to generate return. So in a lot of cases, this is playing to people's preferred search mediums. That's things like call tracking. Since May of 2017, what we call Mobilegeddon, the vast majority of searches being done was not on a desktop computer, but on a mobile phone. And that number continues to increase. It's not, I would say, atypical to see a campaign have 80, 90% of the clicks and engagement on the campaign done from users searching on their mobile device. So I want to really make sure I'm playing to the strength of mobile, and that is when users are out and about and they're looking for that product or service, if I'm serving them an ad on their mobile phone, I want to make sure it's really easy for them to tap to call. I want to make sure that they're able to see that business in the map listings. We'll talk a little bit about that through location extension and Google My Business. Certainly something that we want to look at. I want to be able to make sure that I'm playing to the medium that user is going to see that ad on. Then we talk about things like Google extensions. So this one's a long one. The abridged summary is that almost every Google extension out there, we're able to leverage. So this is things like tap to call. These are things like location extensions, like I talked about, where you have your business address. And in some cases, only recently, Google has opened up to allow ad placement in what we used to call the snack map. I'm not sure if they call it that anymore, but the map placement on your mobile phone or your desktop when you search for a business. So now you're going to be able to buy placement on those maps based on if we can get location extensions built into the ads, and your clients will also need to claim their Google My Business. But I kind of digress there a bit. We have things like site link extensions, call out extensions. Oh geez, there's got to be at least 13 of them. We could also look at structured snippet extensions, affiliate location, you know, I could go on and on, but suffice it to say, if it's a tactic that's available on Google AdWords, we're going to use it to make sure that we're accomplishing that client's needs. But this is always done prescriptively. Does it make sense to say serve a call extension to a business that doesn't have a secretary? Well, probably not. No one's watching the phone. I don't want to pay to drive a call there. So these are all tools and tactics that we'll use. And again, the beauty of partnering with Vendasta is that our team's going to do all the heavy lifting on those extensions for you. So don't even need to worry about it. All I wanted to let you know is that they are at our disposal and we do use them quite often. And then lastly, it's the geo-targeting. So not only the keywords, but I want to make sure those ads are only in the areas that are relevant to your business. So if you're a window and door manufacturer or installer, what's your area of business? You don't want to be serving ads 6 miles away if you only will drive, say, 4 miles away for a job. So always making sure that not only our audience targeting, our keyword level targeting is right, but I also want to make sure the areas that we're serving the ads are right. Keep in mind, some of the biggest benefits that a lot of our businesses will have is in the geo-targeting. They are the hyper-local provider of that product or service. The national brands won't be able to compete with you when it comes to hyper-local. They're buying nationwide keywords. You're going to buy keywords for your individual city or say that individual series of zip codes or that small community, what have you, or maybe just 5 miles around the business or 0.5 miles around the business. Of course, you know, I'll let you guys kind of work that out, you know, based on what your clients are looking for, but know that hyper local pitch is going to be a real big feather in our cap when it comes to making sure we're finding success and we can compete against some of those big brands. Ooh, yeah, that's a wordy one. I'll try to keep this somewhat brief because I know sometimes this makes people's eyes roll. It's a little bit technical, but a lot of the times we get questions on, well, how do I determine my ad rank or my position in a search? So there's about 5 general factors. However, Google is quite tight-lipped about this, and they don't really tell you exactly which factor is more important, less important. There's other factors not included in this list that are also very relevant, but these are the big ones. So what determines your placement on a Google search, first position ad rank, second position ad rank, third position, or in the bottom of the page, are these 5 factors. The bid amount, how much we're willing to pay in that auction of Google's when that user is searching. So to backstep a bit, for those who are unfamiliar with the ad auction, in the milliseconds that a user is searching for pizzerias near me, there's going to be 10, 40, 100 different advertisers like ourselves, like your clients, bidding on that eyeball, or bidding on those pairs of eyeballs, I should hope. So the bid amount is how much we're willing to pay to generate that, say, ad call, or to get that ad placement is a better way to describe that. The nice thing with Google is that when we're bidding on something, Google, I think recently they might make some changes to it. There's been murmurings about it, but normally we're only paying a cent over the max bid. That might be changing in the near future here, so stay tuned if that does. But basically what we're doing is saying each one of these clicks is worth $2 to me. And if someone's searching, say, a more specific term or product, maybe I'm going to bid a little more aggressively. Part of our job is to actively every day, every second of every day, be watching these bid amounts to make sure they're being optimized and adjusted so that you're getting the best bang for your buck on those audiences that we know based on the data are converting. So know that a lot of this heavy lifting we'll handle for you. Then there's things like quality score. So your quality score is basically how well Google thinks that site is built at addressing a question. So if I have a site, for example, on children's shoes and a user searching for children's shoes, that website's going to have a pretty good quality score because it has a really, really high relevance, or really does a good job, let's say, of answering that user's search query. So quality score can be combined for a lot of things, looks at things like mobile responsiveness, does it load on a cell phone well, how much content is on that page, how many times do these specific words come up, a lot of little technical pieces there. Then there's things like ad rank threshold. This is just simply Google looking at your ad saying, is this good enough to get to the top of Google, say, search? Google is in the answers business, so they don't want to serve ads that no one's going to click on. That's also how they get paid. So they want to make sure if this ad is, say, poorly designed, spelling errors, it's not really well built, or it doesn't do a good job of generating I would say a good click-through or has high relevance maybe, Google will give it a poor ad rank threshold, which means that you won't have the chance to even show up at the top of the screen because your ad simply isn't up to Google's standards. Again, with Vendasta, all of our search team is search certified, so they're trained by Google to serve ads on Google. We go through routine Google training, I would say once a month usually. So we're usually abreast to what kind of the newest advancements in Google's search algorithms are. So definitely a factor that I'd consider when you're going to pitch. Lastly, let's look at things like the context of that user's search. So if I'm serving a mobile tap to call ad and that user's searching on their phone, that means that user is a good candidate to see that ad as that ad's designed for a mobile device. So we always look at things like where the user's searching at, what device are they using, the time of day, all of these little tiny factors to determine, well, what is exactly that user looking to do and how are they going to do it? And then lastly, there's this expected click-through rate. Basically, it's Google looking at the ad's performance with all of the different extensions, all the different, say, tweaks we've done and saying, how well do I think this ad is going to be at generating clicks? Again, because Google's going to get paid on each of those clicks, they only want to show the ads that they have a high degree certainty are going to get clicks because that means they're going to make some money. So we're all happy if users are clicking on our ads and converting. Google's even happy because it means that you're going to get really good placement and they're going to get paid. So these are some of the big 5 factors that determine your ad rank. And as you can see, sometimes really difficult to make sure you've nailed each of these down so that you're always in that #1 spot. And we'll talk about that a little later. But if you are going up against people who are saying, I can get you to the #1 spot at Google guaranteed, they're lying. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go here. All right, let me get back onto this deck. All right, so now into I'm sure what many have joined the webinar for, talking about how to sell these search ads. So now we know how search ads address a business's concerns. We know the components of a search ad. We know a little bit about why we need to be in search. Let's talk about how do we then go out and sell it. Well, I always start with, let's talk about the nature of that client's business and marketing objectives. So does search even make sense? So the reason I start here is, well, what kind of business are you in? And what's a typical user's buying cycle? So if you're looking at marketing to, what's a good example here? If you're looking to marketing at users who are looking for, say, senior care facilities, search makes a lot of sense. But if you're looking to only market to those users that are maybe 65 and older, do we expect that they're going to be doing this research searching themselves? Maybe not, maybe so. I always at least start thinking of basically, what are you trying to get out of this search campaign? Does search make sense? Because it will be usually one of the more pricey mediums due to the bidding nature of a search campaign. And I would say the high competition in it. So first start there. Are you doing any other search campaigns? Because that's going to hinder our ads themselves. Couldn't tell you how many times I've talked to a partner that's saying, oh, they're already running some search. I want to run search for them as well. Well, we can do it, but no, you're going to be competing or bidding against yourself, effectively having your own bidding war. Kind of like collusion, but everyone loses. So I would say, let's at least first address what other marketing are they doing? Does search make sense now? Moving on to what Google defined as the 0 moment of truth, or the ZMOT. Basically, this is an older article that Google produced that I encourage anyone to take a look into because I find it quite valuable. But Google talks about how people search is in essence how they think. And if you can get to that user while they're thinking about a purchase and when they're at that point of purchase, what they call the 0 moment of truth, that's a really good time to get your message to them that's going to sink in. So we talk about, well, when it comes to the 0 moment of truth, well, when are people going to search for your product? What are the steps they take? For, say, a tow truck or a taxi company, well, that's a fairly reactive search. The ZMOT, making sure that I'm at the top of that search page, is going to be really crucial because that's something when you need it, you need it. Think about like disaster repair companies. If your basement's flooding, you're not going to take 3 weeks discussing or looking into, rather, what, say, service providers are in your area and who's got the cheapest price. You need that basement cleaned out right away. Whereas if you're buying a home, if you're looking for life insurance, not necessarily something you do off of the first ad you see, you make a purchase. So I always try to think of what's the buying cycle like, what's a typical action a user takes leading up to the point of purchase. All these are kind of loosely covered in ZMOT, but what I'm trying to get at there is let's take a look at that buying cycle. Let's look at how people make those decisions and how long it takes them to make those decisions and factor that into our search campaigns Does it make sense? How do we best address it? We talk a lot sometimes about push versus pull marketing. So this is more tied back to I would say marketing theory, but push-based marketing is every one of those funnel pieces we talked about earlier. Everything above conversion is basically push-based marketing. So that means that I'm taking an audience that I know is researching these 6 topics, and when they're on, say, a display site, or when they're on YouTube, or when they're on Facebook and Instagram, because they looked at, say, men's shoes, I know that they're interested in purchasing men's shoes. They might not be looking at it right now, but I could see that they're on men's shoe sites maybe 6 times in the last 15 days. So what we're going to do is we're going to push an ad at those users. We know that they're interested because they've been looking at that kind of content, so they're a candidate for those ads. Really good at doing more general targeting. The difference with push versus pull ads being what search ads exclusively, I would say, utilize, is that pull-based ads are users requesting information. So it's no longer that I've done some, say I've looked at some sites for men's shoes. I'm actually searching, in this very instance, men's shoes. So I'm requesting information as a customer, so the ad will be pulled to that user when they're actually searching for it. So if you can kind of conceptualize those 2 different, I would say, tactics, you can see that a pull-based ad campaign will naturally garner you a higher number of conversions, because if someone's looking for it right now, well, I don't even know if I need to explain that even further. They're looking for it right now. I just need an ad in front of them. Push-based ads can be effective, but what if that user searching men's shoes has already made a shoe purchase? Well, I don't necessarily know they've done that. I just know for the last 4 days they've been looking at men's shoe stores. So pushing an ad at that user might not be as effective as only serving the ads when the user asks. So I always start to think of push versus pull marketing. How do you want to get your message out there? How does your audience interact with your business or your products and services? And we touched on this earlier, a little earlier in the webinar, but that hyper-local strategy. So what core competency do our small mom and pops or our local businesses have over some of those national brands? Well, they're hyper-local. You serve that small area or that town or that city better than probably the national brands can. So I always try to have people thinking about what makes you different at a local level. Maybe you're the tried and tested shoe store. It's been around for 40 years, has the best return, best service, better than what Nike, Reebok, any of these companies would be able to provide. So let's think about what benefit do we have as that local provider, the same way we look at our partners. Our partners know their local markets much better than we do, so we kind of lean on them a little bit to give us that support. Same with these businesses. Let's try to think of what makes them different. What can they achieve that a national brand might not be able to? So coming into some, I would say, common objectives, the ones that I get quite often, I would say, are a lot of the times AdWords are too expensive. What I'll normally tell clients is, well, there's certainly other ad mediums we can explore, display, social, video-based ad mediums that are not going to be as expensive usually. But how much is one new client worth? So if you're, again, that car dealer example, $33,000 on average as far as a car sale, how much is that worth to generate one of those in a given month? Is it worth $500 to you? Is it worth $1,000 to you? More often than not, again, 80% of the time, we're producing a positive ROI on our campaigns, so I can almost always get you there. I don't like to say that too often though, so don't hold me to it. But I would say that, what is that one new client worth to you? Is it important, Mr. or Miss Business Owner, for you to be found when someone who's looking for your product or service is actively searching for a provider? I would be very surprised to hear anyone say, nope, it is not important to me. I don't want to be there. Almost every business owner will say it is extremely important that I'm shown because that's how I'm going to generate new clients. I also get a question a lot of the times, how much do I need to spend to be effective? This is probably one of the most common questions I get. How much do I need to spend? What's the spend level to, get that top placement or to generate a positive ROI? Hate to say it, everyone, but there is no one set budget that will make our campaigns effective. What I always tell partners is you'll get out what you put into it. So let's look at the number. Well, let's take an example, actually. I have 2 realtors currently running ads. We'll change a little bit of the details, but I have 2 realtors currently running ads in Dallas, Texas. One realtor is running $500 of wholesale spend per month. One realtor is running $5,000 of wholesale spend per month. My $500 realtor has search ads running, same with the 5,000, and the $500 realtor is saying in the ad copy, if you give me your name, email address, and phone number, I'm going to add you to my email marketing list, and I'm going to send you the top 5 undervalued homes that are not yet listed on the MLS or the real, the housing index. So they're not yet listed, they're not yet on the market, but these are the top 5 undervalued homes, in my opinion, in our local market in Dallas, Texas. My $5,000 realtor is saying, I buy and sell homes in your area. Now, I know I don't have the mics on, so I can't have people participating, but I'm sure everyone on the phone can take an educated guess on which one of those campaigns is doing better, the 5,000 or the 500. Ultimately, it's that $500 campaign that's doing substantially better than the $5,000 campaign, simply because of that call to action value proposition in that offer. Knowing the top 500 valued homes in my area is a really strong pitch and a really valuable to first-time home buyers, to residential developers, to people looking to flip a secondary home and maybe make it into an income property. Really valuable. My realtor spending $5,000 saying I buy and sell homes in your area. Well, that's great, but I would hope that realtors buy and sell homes. If not, I would imagine they're not a realtor. So in those instances, it's that old idiom, I can lead a horse to water, I cannot make it drink. I can get 1,000 people to see your ad. If you don't got a good call to action, you have no clear value proposition, no urgency in your offer, why do I need to do it today? No clear course of action on what you want that client to do. Click to get something, tap here to download industry insights, here to book some time with me. You know, if I can't have those, I would say those component pieces, it does make it quite difficult for us to return a strong campaign. So as far as how much do I need to spend to be effective, it's how much you're comfortable spending. Any more you give me is only going to return a positive ROI faster. So another way I always phrase it is I can get the same return on a $500 campaign as I can on a $5,000 campaign. The difference is how long it takes me to get there. Because in that example I gave you, just some food for thought, that realtor running $500 has a cost per acquisition of $26.52. The realtor with $5,000 is generating a cost per acquisition of $141. So, yikes, that becomes a little bit of a tough talking point when it's, you got deep pockets, but your offer's not strong. So it's costing you about $140, $150 for each of these clients you're generating. While my guy with $500 spending is sitting pretty, he's laughing. He's, fat and sassy, as it were. He's enjoying life because he's not paying too much and he's getting a really, really strong return. So definitely something I would try to be prescriptive with your businesses in. Last thing I would add to that is, let's look at the value of a customer to these businesses. If I'm selling life insurance, or a good example, if I'm doing auto injury, how much is that lawyer going to make getting one new client? Well, it's certainly a vast or substantial difference than what someone, say a pizzeria owner, might make. $55 for a pizza, maybe it's $10,000 to get a auto injury attorney on your case. So the value of a customer is going to be much different. Let's be prescriptive in building our budgets. Is it realistic to put $500 to generate $30,000 of return, Mr. or Miss Business Owner? And I would phrase it almost as simply as that. Let's have them spending at a level that they're comfortable with and allow those campaigns to run for a long period of time, and you'll really get the value out of those campaigns. But make no mistake, if someone's telling you you need $5,000 to get #1, say, rank in Google every time, I would not trust those people, because that is 100% not accurate. There is no way to guarantee #1 position on Google's paid search. Even Google will tell us that. So important to keep in mind. And how do I know it's working is another question I get a lot of the time. Well, again, the beauty of digital ads is we have that ROI-centric reporting. So I'm able to show that business owner or show that partner, Mr. or Miss Business Owner, or Mr. or Miss Partner, based on all of those actions you told me were valuable, based on the value you assigned to each of those actions. Therefore, based on your own admission, this campaign has I think our average ROI right now is just a little under 270% across all our campaigns. So I can say with a high degree of confidence, this campaign is generated by your own admission, 270% return. How do you walk away from a campaign like that? The short answer is, for 80% of our partners and their clients, they simply don't. You run that, that's good, I would say, recurring revenue for you and your sales staff. And you don't have to worry about that client anymore. You can look at other services or finding new clients to onboard. So it really, really makes it a long-term relationship. Of course, with search ads, you could also look at layering in all those other component pieces of that buying cycle. Have we addressed the awareness? Have we addressed engagement? Let's not put all our eggs in the conversion basket. And this is a common thing or a theme that we see across a lot of clients. They'll concentrate on conversion because that's the easiest sometimes to prove success with. Sometimes it's a little tough to talk about, oh, hey, I had 100,000 ads of yours go out. How much did that sell? How much did that return? Can't really tell you. The downside to those kind of, I would say, sales tactics is, at some point in time, if you're not filling up the top of that funnel with new audiences, you're going to, at some point, you're going to run out of people searching for that product or service, or you'll hit 100% saturation found in every single search. I can't generate more business for your clients if people don't know what you do and what makes you different. If they're simply searching, we would think of things like our tracked ads campaigns. We have a webinar on that. I encourage anyone on the call today that's interested in that, take a look at our YouTube channel. That's really cool. That's basically multi-network, multi-device remarketing. Very, very specific. If you're familiar with geofencing, it's kind of like geofencing's older brother. Really, really precise GPS-based, I would say ad targeting, does visitation data, does a bunch of cool stuff I won't have time to really dive into today, but take a look at that webinar on our YouTube channel. Really interesting stuff. Of course, we can pair this with a different style of search campaign that they might be running, but one point I want to make there, we should not be running search campaigns when our clients are running their own search campaigns, because effectively starting that bidding war we talked about with ourselves, that's just bad ad strategy. Pair that with maybe that display campaign. So more of that awareness piece. Beauty of display is you're paying pennies on the dollar for each impression you generate, so it's really cost effective. So to get those eyeballs is not going to cost you too much money. And then lastly, things like your Facebook campaign and your YouTube campaign. I'm just looking at the time. Holy, I got to rush. You want to try to build these pieces in prescriptively based on, are these addressing, I would say, neglected areas of your client's marketing funnel. So if they don't have a Facebook presence and they're running, a salon or day spa, well, we should probably get that going for them, because we know, women are the heavier, I would say, demographic on social channels. So we want to play to that strength, that there's going to be a few more women on Facebook and Instagram than there will be men. So want to try to be prescriptive with how we apply each of these digital elements. And then lastly, why would you choose Vendasta? Well, and we've talked about this in the past, but we have a team of experts for each single platform we offer it. So we're kind of a jack of all trades. So I have a search team that's trained by Google to sell ads on Google. I have a display team that collects terabytes of audience data each month. I have a Facebook Blueprint certified team. They spent the $600. They took the exams from Facebook to sell ads on Facebook. So they're really, really, I would say, specialized. And of course, all of this is included with any of your ad campaigns. So you get a team for each, which people usually like. We do landing page creative. We'll host that for you. We'll do full call tracking. In some cases, if your clients are using Google Analytics, we can track the goals from our ad campaigns on your reports that we generate for you. So really, really valuable insights there. Of course, we use all of the tools at our disposal, like our advanced bidding platforms. I don't get too technical into it, but basically, we're using software to help not only the human side of things, but the machine side of things. I want to make sure that those bids are adjusted in the milliseconds that those ads are being served, something that a human simply could not do. So these are small things like time of day adjustments, bid adjustments, keyword flagging. If we notice some traffic is not really generating good returns, but the system can't tell based on the interactions, it'll flag it for our search experts to also dive in and take a look at. So you have both what we call the programmatic or algorithmic side of the optimization and the expert side of the optimization, the human and the machine. I don't know if there's any Terminator fans, but it's kind of robot uprising. Yikes! Let me tell you, these are smart systems. They certainly have me sweating. White labeled services as well is something that we really try to showcase with our ads offering. Basically with the digital ads team, our job is to make your sales staff that hero to that local business. So it's a totally white labeled service. For the vast majority of our clients, we're going to work exclusively through your sales staff. So you are the expert to that local business, not Vendasta. Lastly, I did want to touch on this briefly, as this is somewhat new, but recently we were granted Google coupons. long and short of this is for $150 of spend in your first month, we're going to simply apply $150 additional spend to that campaign free of charge. So Google's helping us out with this. Had to bend some arms, but we were able to get it. So long and short, if you're spending $150, which almost everyone will, as our minimums are $500 per month, we're going to add $150 into that search campaign for you, which is awesome because the first month is always the toughest month. We're optimizing a lot of things. We're making a lot of changes. It's square one, as it were. So this gives us an additional leg up, effectively cutting down our learning curve to that profitability point. So know that this is going to be available at least for the next few months. So I encourage you, make hay while the sun shines. Let's get some ad campaigns in here. Wanted to make sure as well, though, this is exclusive for USA and Canada and Canadian companies. We are exploring trying to get this working for our Australian, our Brits, our South American friends, or South African, friends. But as of right now, this is North America specific. One thing I lastly wanted to touch on was a new promotion that we wanted to promote, and that is the Google My Business posts. So if you hadn't known already, Google has a service called Google My Business, extremely valuable for your clients. If they don't already have their Google My Business claimed, which is basically their business, as if you were to Google it, it'll come up on the side that, hey, Mike's Shoe Store, here's the website, here's the phone number, reviews, hours. Extremely valuable. I'm amazed more people don't have their Google My Business pages claimed because it's extremely important for your business owner. They'll generate a pile of leads for absolutely free, 5 minutes of effort to claim that page. And you can easily do that from quickly Googling Google My Business. The beauty of this is with any of our Google My Business posts, which you can post to, what we'll do for about a $200 spend, we'll add that search add-on. So the nice part about this is that no setup fee, we're going to build some ad groups for you. The one thing I do want to make everyone aware of is with that Google My Business posting, organic posting, what we'll do with the search add-on, which would be myself and the team, we'll build an automated ads campaign for you. I do want to mention that with this add-on, there is no human, I would say, intervention or optimization. This is simply allowing the platform to make those adjustments for us. So it's still very valuable. Sometimes, though, having that human set of eyes is sometimes better to be able to see seasonality, any kind of cyclical nature of the business that the machines might have a harder time kind of discerning. And then lastly, you will get things like our real-time reporting through advertising intelligence, but it's not going to be, the reports that my team generates and uploads on your behalf like you would with a standard search campaign. The last thing I would mention, good news, as long as we're spending that $150 in the first month, the Google coupon applies to this campaign as well. So for that $200 US spend, we should be able to, again, assuming we spend up to $150, whatever that value is, apply that to the ad campaign on your behalf. So you're effectively doubling the amount of money for half the price. Pretty good deal, I would say. So with that said, that kind of covers today's topics. I know Tiago might have some additional things that he might want to talk about, but please feel free to throw some questions in. We're a little over time. Oh, actually, right on the money almost. Feel free to plug some questions in the chat, and I'll address those as they come up. Is there anything we wanted to add, Tiago? No, looks good. Wanted to also do a quick shout out. If you guys are at all interested in learning a little more about this, our YouTube channel is great for you. And the last little plug I wanted to do is to take a look at Vendasta's Conquer Local, where we're going to be going to San Diego, excuse me. You got me messed up here. And then, so I wanted everyone to take a look at that. It's going to be a really cool conference. We're going to have good representation from basically every expert of Vendasta. So if that's something that interests you, take a look at vendasta.com, Conquer Local. Would love to see you there. I think that's in a couple months from now, so coming up pretty quick. All right. So that said, I'm going to answer a few questions here. Let me just grab a few. All right. Looks like I only got one right now. Hey, Joshua. Oh, there we go. I gotcha. There we go. All right. Is Tracked Ads deliverable on social now? Hey, Kevin. Yeah, so Tracked Ads is just finalizing beta testing. Effectively, it is available on social. I'm going to keep today's discussion, though, specific to search. But to your question, yeah, should be ready to go. Just finalizing these last little beta tests. You'll learn about Vendasta. You guys, we're big believers in not launching something before it's ready. You know, on the ad side of things, we want to make sure that we've really hammered it down. I don't like surprises. I've had surprises too often in this game, and they're never appreciated for the most part. All right. Any other questions about search or how we, basically structure these search campaigns or some of the value we can bring? Tell us more about your reporting. All right, Darlene. Tell us more about your reporting, she asked. Format, delivery, and do I have an example? Great question. I wonder if I don't know if on this computer I'll be able to. So our reporting is based on the medium you're going to choose. So you'll have things like, I wonder if I can pull it up. I might not be able to actually. I'm using the webinar computer, which doesn't have my 20-character unique password, which will take me forever to write. Long and short, though, we do real-time reporting on managed ad campaigns through a service called TapClicks. I'd think of it like the C3PO of reporting platforms. Speaks every single language, integrates with just about every ad offering or DSP, and allows us to really pull in all of those results. So what you'll have is you'll have a general front cover page. I'll have to kind of do this by explaining it to you, Darlene, apologies, where you'll have the client spend, you'll have the high-level clicks, impressions, click-through rates, you'll have those actions that user defined as valuable, leads generated, calls booked, appointments booked online, e-commerce purchases, any one of those online actions that you would deem valuable. And then we'll have the ROI on that cover page broken out by not only percentage, how much ROI did we generate for you, again on the client spend or on what we'll call retail spend, built into that report as well as the lifetime revenue. So we'll show you exactly how much money we generated by the client's own admission and as a percent of their spend. Important to note that when it comes to the ROI reporting, we're pushing about a 200 and I think, 70%, I think 260 or 70 on the client spend on retail. When in reality, after every margin comes out, that's almost double probably what we're showcasing, because the real figure on ad spend would be what you would use to determine ROI. In our case, because we want to shield that white labeling, all the margins, we'll build the ROI off of what the client's spending, which is almost always, actually is always, substantially greater than what we're actually using to buy the ads with or what the partner pays us, yourself. Lastly, you'd have things like keywords, top 10 keywords. You'd have ad groups, men's, women's, children's shoes, top 10 keywords, the client average cost per click. Important to note, every one of our reports is always marked up to retail spend. So it's never going to be a question of, hey, Darlene, I gave you $1,000. This report says you're only spending $650. Know that you'll never have to worry about that. Everything is always marked up to client spend. And then lastly, some what I would call fluff metrics, delivery by device, clicks by device. Interesting, albeit not that valuable. It's more or less just so we can have a nice looking pie chart in there. Just business owners like to have some visuals in there. So I try to build that in as well. You can use it to make some smart marketing adjustments moving forward though. So if you learn 70% of your traffic is coming from a mobile device and you don't have a mobile optimized website, well, guess what? That's a nice place to go in and start talking about our website development services. All right, I beat that one, I think. All right, I got Leah asking with budget. I thought there was something somewhere that in what I read that some of the costs of search ads includes ad budget. Let me try to dissect that one. Some of the costs of search ads includes ad budget. So the cost of those search ads, probably what you're thinking of, Leah, is the average client cost per click. So with that, I'm assuming, if I'm wrong, just throw it in the chat, let me know. With the average cost per click that I was mentioning earlier, always marks up to retail spend. So if we're paying $2 and say $2 for that click on the ad spend level, I'm going to build in our margin, I'm going to build in your margin so that on the report, it'll say average client cost per click, and I'll build all those margins back up in there. So if the client were ever to do some wonky math and say, okay, if it costs me $4, now building mine and yours back in, and I generated 1,000 clicks, does that put me in the range of where my ad spend or my retail spend with Leah was? You'll never have to worry about that because we'll be marking those cost per clicks up. So if they ever did that wonky math, it will be in the range of what that client was spending with you. If I've answered that question. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Leah. All right. Oh, I have Alex asking, can you elaborate on the Google My Business post service? Let me back up maybe a little bit here. So Google My Business, basically it's that service. Well, actually, Tiago, do you want to take this one?
Actually, I have good news for you. In 2 weeks, we're going to have a webinar to talk only about Google My Business. But I can tell you that it's a very valuable service. So everyone who is running searches on Google, they will eventually find your Google My Business profile. And you want to have this Google My Business profile very updated. And it's not about your name, address, and phone number anymore. People want to see information there. And you can actually create some posts to talk about your best deals and upcoming events and talk about your business there. And it's very valuable because you can also include call to action buttons like buy now, call now, stuff like that. So we're going to talk about that. And with this new service that Vendasta is launching, we have this managed Google search ads that that Mike was talking about.
Thanks, Tiago. Appreciate it. Hopefully we answered your question there, Alex. Really, really valuable though, in my opinion. Google My Business, simply claiming it is going to generate a pile of return for your businesses. So what I notice a lot of the times is I'll jump on a call with a partner and we'll talk about search for their client. I'll go to Google that client and I'll notice that I'll have a little text underneath that client's business on the right of a search screen where their Google My Business listing will be, and it'll say, do you own this website, ? That to me is a huge red flag. We should definitely be telling our partners partners. I'm telling you, our partners, you should definitely be telling our clients that they need to be claiming their Google My Business. It's going to generate an absolute pile of return, and it's free to do. All you need to do is claim it, say to Google, hey, this is my business, I own it, here's the site, here are the hours, start to pull reviews in there. Really, really, really valuable for those users that are doing that research or more organic searches. You're going to get a ton of return from that. So that's a huge value add. I'd really encourage everyone on the webinar to maybe attend that next one, because that's going to be a real big component to your business's finding success for free, which I like because I'm cheap. Darlene was asking as well as a follow-up, how often do you provide reporting? Do you adjust the ad on a regular basis after its launch? Great question, Darlene. So we provide reporting at the 2-week mark for proof of performance, and then our coordinators are generating reports and uploading them to the business center on your behalf every month after, on the anniversary of the ad launch. I wanted to dive into that a little bit more though. That report platform, TapClicks, that I've simply only been talking about, I've never shown you because I don't have it up, my apologies. That is going to be granted, you're going to be granted access to it as well. So you're going to have real-time reporting on your end, whether through TapClicks or ideally in the future, we're going to move over to AdIntel, which is our owned and operated tool, but it's not there yet. So until it gets there, TapClicks is our go-to. You'll get a login as well, the exact same access that we have on your behalf to be able to see those results, generate reports, look at insights, gain insights from the business, or the reports to kind of give to the business. That's included with our ad campaigns. So at the 2-week mark and every month moving forward. All right. All right. Do I have any more questions in here? Hey, I was expecting to get peppered, you guys. Give me those hard ones. Who's got some good client examples? I don't mind digging into it. If you guys got time, it means I don't have to. Do you adjust the ad on a regular basis? Oh, thanks, Darlene. Didn't address that. Yes. So what you'll notice, Darlene, is that optimization is what I'll call it of an ad campaign. Heavy when it comes to human involvement in the launch. So a human does a much better job of looking at more macro, more large changes or more seasonal changes, or looking at cyclical or seasonality in a business, whereas a machine needs a heavy or a large data set to build off of to be able to make those decisions. Know that at Vendasta, everything we do is based on what is the data telling us. We're huge data types, big nerds as it were. I don't like to make any change from the hip based on a whim or a gut instinct. That's old school Mad Men kind of marketing. We don't really engage with so much of that. I like to make any, I would say, changes or adjustments to a campaign from a position of, do we have a really good set of data to be able to say empirically, based on all of these interactions, I can show you that this decision or this change or this optimization makes sense. So in the beginning of a campaign, because we don't have a lot of data, we rely on our search experts to make more of those small changes. Bid, time of day, pacing of those ads, delivery locations, extensions used, ad copy, all those little kind of minutia, as it were,
that's needed. Those are more human side changes done at the launch of a campaign. What you'll notice is that as that campaign ages and progresses, the human involvement is not as necessary in the later stages, month maybe 3, 4, not as involved, simply because what we've learned actually is that the human involvement in month 3, 4, 5 actually sometimes is detrimental to a campaign. What we think might work is not always what will work. In some cases, what the business owner thinks is a good idea actually is counterintuitive. Good example of this is a teeth whitening studio that wanted to serve ads to exclusively C-suite employees, CEO, CFO, CTO. So we served ads talking about, available after hours at work, or we can even come into your office and you do the whole board deck or do the board of directors while they're at their desks working. We can bring this technology to you. What we learned when we allowed the machines to optimize the campaigns, that the number one demographic online were university-age students riding the bus. So that business owner absolutely floored in the fact that they had been advertising for 5 years leading up to that to exclusively C-suite employees, owners, managers, middle management, highly educated, affluent audiences. When in reality, their core demographic online, the people that really wanted that service, were broke college students riding the bus. So we changed the ad strategy. We changed the promotions to be easier payments, lower setup fee, or lower subscription for that service. And they had a tremendous return from that. If we didn't allow the machines to optimize and we only optimize it ourselves, we'd be still slugging away, barking up the wrong tree. So I always like to say more human involvement in the beginning of a campaign, more machine or algorithmic involvement at the end of a campaign. Know though that those two, I would say, those two changes, or those two, how do I want to describe that? Those two optimization, I would say, sources are active throughout the whole lifespan of a campaign. There's no campaign that we set up and never look at again. Even 6 months down the road, I got my search team doing audits of all of our search campaigns, seeing, did we do better month over month? Am I getting a better bang for the buck? Am I stretching that dollar farther? I felt like I really beat that one to death too. Sorry, Darlene, if you want a quick answer, hopefully that helps. We have clients in Canada and the USA. Do you recommend a separate campaign even though they are similar clients? Good question. That's sometimes a little tough to answer. Kind of depends on the vertical. I would say that a lot of the times when we're looking at how to do multi-market, or we're looking to, say, have a wider area of delivery with some of these clients, I always like to tell them, start small, grow out. Sometimes I might say the opposite, start big, get smaller and more concise. But more often than not, we usually tell partners, start with your local market, because again, you have that hyper-local play. People know you better than anyone else. What we can do is learn who engages with your brand better. So that example of the teeth whitening studio is really, really, I would say, a good example in this case. If we had done that at a national level, imagine the thousands of dollars we would have spent for months targeting CTOs, CFOs, CMOs. When in reality, they're not even our primary audience online. They're probably not even our secondary. That audience is more our tertiary audience. Really no need to serve those ads to those users unless they're right at that point of purchase. What we should have been doing is looking at those college-age students. But the benefit to starting a campaign locally, probably Canada in this case, as we have a smaller population, less competition than our friends across the States. From here, I want to make sure that we're getting insights into that campaign on who's clicking on what and how they engage with that ad. And then I can take those insights and move, say, more to a national campaign. So effectively what you're doing there is you're kind of cutting your teeth in the sandbox, as it were, in a smaller market, learning what works, what doesn't. So then when we go national, we're effectively cutting down the learning curve, meaning that when we're ready to start playing with kind of the big sluggers, we've already done a lot of the research on what works, what doesn't work. So I usually say, if the client's got a finite budget, let's start locally, let's start small, let's get some insight, some data-driven insight on what works, what doesn't, and then we'll expand outwards, effectively allowing us to have better purchasing power, cutting that learning curve down. Let's see. Okay. I have, yeah, so, Josh, I have Josh coming in here asking, what's the wholesale cost for you to manage this? And do you also do remarketing? Long and short, I don't want to really that's a can of worms, dissecting wholesale cost. It's fairly straightforward. We have order minimums and we have order minimum durations. But as far as the cost is concerned, we are somewhat prescriptive based on the amount of money your client's spending. So usually we say about $10,000 per month per client. We're able to look at our management fees. But of course, there's deals being done left, right, and center. So certainly something we can explore. I don't really want to hammer that question just yet. But I do want to mention that we do have order minimums and minimum duration. So you cannot run a campaign with Vendasta, unfortunately, for anything less other than this add-on right here, at anything less than $500 wholesale per month for a minimum of 3 months. Any less than that, what we've learned is that we just simply don't have a really good retention. So at a $500 level, 80% of our clients are going to find a positive ROI, and they're going to continue spending with us. It's kind of like a casino. The goal is to have people in the system spending over a long period of time. Quick wins are great, but ultimately the real value is having that as a baseline of business for you and your agency so that you're always making X many dollars because that client is happy with the campaign we're running for them. We're not breaking the bank. We're giving you a nice little base to work off of so you're a little more comfortable to go out and find new sales. But I'd encourage you, Joshua, if you want to really hammer those questions, maybe book some time with myself or your PD, or if you're not yet a partner, talk to one of our BERs to discuss that a little further. Can I sell to clients with no website, says anonymous attendee. You can. I wouldn't recommend it. So having no website is a real big, I would say, issue. When it comes to search ads, I got to drive them somewhere. I got to send these clients somewhere. Sometimes it's not so bad if you're like a cleaner or if you're a professional service vertical where you have maybe an area of operation or business. In those cases, anonymous attendee, whoever you may be, feel free to have that client claim their Google My Business. Good news is that at least when someone searches you, you have some presence online. But if they don't have a website, I can tell you right now, they got bigger problems than getting good search presence. Think of it like putting new windows and doors on a dilapidated house. It looks great from the street, or maybe looks better from the street, but when I go into look into that house, I open the door, I notice that it's all torn down, the roof's leaking, I'm gonna get tetanus from stepping on some rusty needles or some lots of needles, this is recorded, let's say nails, so I don't want a client that's really got poor presence or a poor foundation. We can do really, really good work if the client's got a well-built site, robust, has mobile optimized, so it works on a cell phone. So this is another way that you can kind of take that discussion and say, hey, listen, I'd love to get you on search, but you know what? Before we start putting new windows and doors on this, on your online business, let's take care of your foundational pieces, website, presence in social channels, listings, reviews, all these little foundational pieces will help us generate better return. A nice little saying I like to bring to the table a lot of the times is if you're spending $3 on that awareness piece, $2 on engagement, you only have to spend $1 on conversion. So what I mean by that is if you've taken care of those foundational pieces of your business, website, everything I just described, if you've taken really, really good or concerned efforts in that, it's going to be, I would say, substantially cheaper for you to run an effective search campaign. Because I don't have to worry about all those other things. Google knows you have no website. You know what your quality score is going to be? That one of those 5 metrics, probably a 0, because Google's going to say they don't have a website. So I don't know if I want to put their ad up there if there's nowhere someone can click through to. But that's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. What's the cost of building websites for a potential client? Great question, anonymous attendee. I will probably leave that for our website team, but I believe, no, nothing. I think they start at like 300. I'm on the ad side of things, so I leave it to those coders to kind of give you an answer on that. Take a look online though, anonymous attendee, whoever you may be. You should be able to find some insights onto our website pricing or our pricing of our services, or feel free to call into our Success on Demand team to talk about it. Because depending on the type of website you want, e-commerce, non-e-commerce, that's going to affect the cost of said campaign. But good question. All right. I'm getting questions from a lot now. Here we go. We're rolling in now. Do you do local marketing analysis as part of ad setup? Great question, Darlene. I would love to do that. Between me and you, though, if I'm just speaking plainly, you know me, under promising, over delivering, I would say that normally we don't do that kind of service. Know that in my capacity with the digital ads team, my only job is to make sure, every one of our partners is finding success and selling. So if it means that I have to help you with if it means I'd be more than happy to help on a few of those first initial calls to do this kind of marketing analysis. There are cases where I've helped clients produce search campaigns as far as estimates, keyword research, those kind of things. The downside is, I traditionally book out like 48 hours in advance. So sometimes it's a little tough to get me on a call to help you with that. More than willing to help you out. Know though, part of the benefit of partnering with Vendasta is to give you the tools and the training so that you have that ability yourself. Because to me, it's really valuable to have a rep that comes in and gives me a report that says 400% ROI. It's more valuable to have Darlene come in, give me an ROI of say 400%, and then have her tell me, listen, these 3 areas are unaddressed areas of your business that you should be doing more on your own, Mr. or Miss Business Owner. It's going to help you, as far as your local marketing presence down the road. Because now you're not only, you're not just a transactional rep giving me that good looking report. Now you're giving me tangible real world insights as a business owner I can then apply to my business, effectively being smarter at my own marketing. And I think that makes you really, really sticky. So if we have a bad month, it's no longer live by the numbers, die by the numbers, because Darlene's also the one giving me that really good insight into my ad campaign, into my online presence as a whole, really. So I feel like that's a really good value add that I'd encourage you to use. But certainly more than willing to help our partners out when it comes to selling. Trust me, it's in my best interest as well as your own. It means I have a job next month, which I would love to have one. It's Vendasta fee hidden in the reporting. Great question, Alex. It is. So like I was mentioning, all of our reporting being ROI, or I don't want to go down that. That's not the right thread to go down. All our reporting is in client spend, in retail spend is what I meant to say there. So that means the total campaign spend, the monthly investment, the average client cost per click would be the only metrics that speak specifically to the spend. And all of those are marked up with our own margin as well as yours. So know that, those are fields that we'll ask in the onboarding questionnaire that you would submit in order to order one of these campaigns. We ask what's the retail, what's the wholesale, and we use that so we can build those reports for you. So yeah, long story short, the client will never see the fees in our ad campaigns. One thing I would mention, and again, I don't want to get too technical because we're talking selling here, not setting, but with our search campaigns, they are all operated under our own ad accounts. So if your client's got their credit card, their Google Ads account, or their old school AdWords account, and they're saying, hey, I'll give you access to it, you can come into it, you can make changes, know that unfortunately for the vast majority of our partners, we're not able to do that for you. Again, half the benefit though is using the software, the platform that we pay thousands of dollars for, and the only way we can use that is if we're bringing those accounts in-house. So know that all of that gets pulled, like the ad groups, the keywords, all that kind of stuff is run from our own ad account. So your client, and in a lot of cases, even yourself as a partner, won't have direct access to that. Hopefully I answered that question. Let's see what else do we got. I think that's all, you guys. These are some great questions. I just want to make sure I hammered each of these. Looks like it. Well, I really appreciate everyone's time. I know search can sometimes be a little bit of a dry discussion, and I also know search can sometimes be a little opaque. A lot of partners will say, geez, well, there's no concretes, there's no absolutes. I'm a print rep. I come from the print world, so I get it. I was a square salesman. Ben, what size of square do you want? I can sell it. Doesn't matter. It's this exact dimension. With search, with online advertising, it's really gray. There's some areas that, I can give you some really good advice. There's other areas that's going to be supply and demand driven. It's like the markets, you couldn't ask, your investment, your stockbroker to tell you what's going to happen with this stock. They have an idea. They couldn't tell you with guarantees. The same is true with digital ads. So a lot of the times it's just about understanding the core, I would say, concept of search, how it fits into your business's marketing mix, and how we can effectively pitch to it and what value we bring to the table. So with that, I think I'm going to close up today. Know that if you have any questions at all, please reach out to our Success on Demand team. Please attend the webinar next week when we're going to talk a little bit about Google My Business posts. I think that's really valuable. Definitely an unaddressed need, I would say, for a lot of our businesses and their partners. Look at potentially joining us at Conquer Local. Shameless plug here. You might get a chance to talk to myself and the ads team. I think that might just get me there. Not just kidding. And then lastly, if you have any other questions as well, know that, our Success on Demand team or myself in a lot of cases, more than willing to sit down and talk about some of the specifics. But with that, unless you have anything else, Tiago, I would like to say thank you for your attendance, everyone. Appreciate the time, and know that this webinar will be recorded and uploaded onto YouTube shortly after. So if you missed anything or you came late, it looks like my friend Dustin here, feel free to join and take a look at that. Also take a look at some of the other content on there if you're not sick of my voice already. But anyways, thanks again, you guys. Have a great week. Looking forward to hopefully hearing some questions a little later on, but hope you have a great day and good luck selling.